下面一位主讲人是 Robert Simonic，讲座的题目是速度与爆发力项目一般准备阶段的训练计划。Robert 是运动学学士，从事教练工作15年，在柔道、自行车、足球、篮球和高山滑雪等运动项目上有丰富经验，曾执教斯洛文尼亚的柔道和高山滑雪奥运选手，专精于康复和体能准备。下面开始 Robert 的讲座。
Hi there, I'm Robert Simonic, and I have a short presentation introducing how I plan GPP, that's General Preparation Period, for sports that uses sprints, jumps, strikes, anything that is aggressive, sudden, and that are most of the sports out there, like team sports, alpine skiing, combat sports, track and field, with sprinting, jumping, and throwing events. I consider myself as science-based coach, science and evidence-based coach, first and foremost, and I build on my experience, which lasts from around 20 years in this field. I'm a co-owner of strength and conditioning facility in Slovenia named Super Training. I used to work with beginners and Olympic levels athletes, having athletes in both summer and winter Olympic Games in Beijing. I worked in a range of sports from judo, alpine skiing, football, ultra road cycling, and more. I also do a lot of rehabilitation. Currently, I'm also head strength coach in a local football club. I present here some of the more important things that works for me when I'm planning my working plans for my athletes. I will talk about how I plan together one GPP cycle and then delve more into the strength phase just for the sake of this presentation. Do what is necessary, nothing more or nothing less. Look out for the unnecessary overload. Don't overburden your athletes. That's my number one goal. In short time, develop what is necessary and has to be done. Don't work it on everything. It couldn't go. Go for sufficiency, not excessiveness. And this, rather do less than do too much, is point of this slide. This is a table that I create for myself to help me plan and not forget the important stuff. This table is not all there is, but it's just a guide. Some names inside this table are just to help me clarify some things, like here in patches, it's what I work mostly in the strength phase, and is not meant for the bottom levels, which I add later. And this table is still in the making, in producing. So this percent loads is also, and durations are meant for the strength training. Here we have strength training, which I will delve later on. Here is conditioning, everything from the non-specific conditioning, cardio, aerobic conditioning, to the sprints, anaerobic, glycolytic. Also, I've inserted some change of directions and how I progress, and also elastic component, which I consider very important, with jumping and sprinting. This is zoom in of the upper part of the table. Below you can see names for the different periods inside the plan. This is just to clarify things. It's just the nomenclature, nothing else. Like in the first phase, which I consider GPP, early and late stage, that's anatomical adaptation or accumulation phase. It depends on which author do you take your information, Bompa or Isurin. Then we have maximal strength phase, intensification phase, and at the end, power and speed phase, realization phase. This is more in-depth presentation with exercises and how I progress. Later I will show some of the exercises. So in the first part, I do everything continuous with the extensive effort, which means longer periods under the load. Here it says 60 seconds, but it can be 30 seconds too. We do bilateral exercises with body weights, resistance bands, sleds, barbells. We do just basic exercises which are written down here: drawbar squats, deadlifts, resistance bands, push-ups, pull-downs, TRX rows, and we do some extensive isometric holds like lunges, push-ups, TRX rows, Nordics with more shallow angle. This is introducing part of the strength training, and we go heavier from set to set and longer too. Okay. For the novice athlete, this means a lot of work and can be go to the up here, as this is for him also maximal strength and progressing slowly. For the more experienced lifter athlete, this is a week or two of working. Next thing is same thing, but we add load, and that be in going from bilateral to unilateral exercises, same basic exercises, adding some sets and dropping the reps. We add also tempo eccentrics, which means that we slowly lowering our weight under the load. That's sub 100% of concentric percentages. We also intensify extensive isometrics and going from the 30 to 60 to 10 to 20 with the extra load. Still the submax 1 RM concentric. The regular exercises are here. We just build on this. Then we go to more true maximal strength phase, building the load, progressing from the load of 80% and above, and going very slowly. The more is the athlete novice, the less we add, we progress. Okay. From the 80, and this later with the good athletes we go also above 90. We add here maximal intent of the reps, so we are going with the full effort to the concentric phase. The rest durations are longer, 3 to 5 minutes. Eccentric part is normal, and we intensify isometrics. First we add longer duration intensive isometrics, still under 10 seconds, and at later part, or when the athlete is advanced, we add 2 to 4 seconds. The exercises are mostly, for me, bilateral with good all exercises: squats, deadlifts, GHD, Nordics, bench presses, pull-ups, and isometric mid-thigh pulls. But that does mean this is all the exercises we do. We add variety. I will show them later. At the last part, before the competition phase, we are adding velocity to the lifts. So we are building power. I consider this power phase to be in two-way, with body-weighted exercises and loaded exercises. Body-weighted exercises we perform 3 to 4 sets with 6 reps, 5 to 6 reps. Loaded exercises 3 to 4 sets with just 3 reps. And I love to add sprints inside. Consider them like strength exercise, fast strength. I measure time to peak velocity, also rate of force development. Here is maximal rate of force development, and here I watch out for the 10 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds, sorry. Also, I add here fast eccentric or really fast eccentric work, like dropping and catching. Exercises are hurdle jumps, frontal lateral, change of directions, drop jumps, drop steps, weightlifting, loaded jumps, fast lifts with the resistance bands, like squat and bench. In deload phase, which is actually just transfer from power phase, but we do way less, sorry. I do like to go with lower volumes and still have same intensity. Like you see here, 3 to 6, 4 to 6, here is 3 to 5, 2 to 4. That's just to clarify things. And we want this deload phase, that the supercompensation phase in athletes' bodies is starting. So if here is at the end is some testing or competition or tournament, his after recovery be better. This is graph that I made just to clarify the table that I presented in the last couple of slides. It is the same thing, just shown in the picture. So we have hypertrophy and maximal strength, and same thing here. And this is power phase, RFD, and at last specific preparation time period with sprinting, change of direction, multi-bounds, whatever. Here is the duration and intensification. So you see that we intensify during the progressions. So this is just the other way, showing other way as the last table. And this is the same thing, another with another picture, going from longer duration and bigger range of motion to short durations with short range of motion, and everything is just the same as before, going from big U to big V to little v. I will show some exercises with the emphasis on eccentrics because I think that's the most missed part of our trainings. We a lot of time we just consider concentric part and these days also isometrics, but we forget on the eccentrics. This is eccentric slow tempo lowering or lifting, whatever you use, or accentuated eccentric lifting as it goes from bilateral to unilateral here. As concentric phase is limiting here, we can't overload the lifter, so we go slowly and emphasizing eccentric phase. There is a lot of evidence that this kind of slow tempo lowering develop muscles in series, adding sarcomeres, which builds contraction velocity, which is helping with the injury prevention and sprinting, jumping, landing in sport. This is the same thing as in last slide, just that here this athlete quite overloads those quads. Folks, don't try this at home, please. This is extremely heavy. She is very strong athlete. Going from slow to faster, here we have my skier, alpine skier, performing fast tempos, lowering and catching at the end, emphasizing velocity of this eccentric exercise. I really prefer this kind of execution over flywheel devices. I have my reasons. So he's going really heavy. This is like 85% of his max, dropping under the load and catching. This video I stole from Johan Lahti, very good researcher out there, performing the same thing as skier with a bit lighter load, but with stricter, shorter, more aggressive stopping. Let's do it one more. So up, poof, and catching. Very good exercise, and going unilaterally. And here we have the last part of this eccentric training, going very fast and aggressive. During these videos we go from slow and heavy to heavier and slower to faster and unloaded and very fast eccentric portion of the lifts. You can say I'm a big believer in eccentric training. Yes, I am.
Hyvä. Vähän vielä korkeammalle pomppu, sit työtti ilman jälkeen.
I took this video from Alex Natera, where he shows time duration for the different sport, time duration for the execution reducing force. Some are faster than a blink of an eye. Don't blink, here it is again. Yep, very fast. And at this time, in such a short time, they produced a huge amount of force. So here is slow motion. And now he will compare this with the concentric heavy squat. Watch out, time duration. More than 3 seconds. And all the others were a couple of 100s or even less. So this is the reason why we must consider also fast lifting, but not just concentric part, also the eccentric part, because many of these exercises or modalities are huge on eccentrics, producing huge amounts of forces when stepping down. In this graph, which I found on the internet, and I should give a credit, but I don't know where I found it, so I cannot add reference, and I am apologizing for that. This is the graph from which I took numbers, and I calculated here some metrics and add this yellow heavy submaximal squat, and here we can see that the acceleration, so eccentric phase, it's, if we consider rate of force, maximal rate of force development, we see it is about 13% higher than acceleration, which we consider concentric part, and 20 times bigger than squats. So we must take into consideration that eccentric lifting is not everything there is. This can be, I will use a quote from the Iron Mike Tyson: everybody has plan till they get punched in the mouth. And this is the same. Everybody have plan stepping into the gym and consider lifting heavy weights with slow and huge loads. So you must add some velocity and eccentric part. To prepare you for the real world, real sports events. Just consider that squatting with the pink weights on the both balls, and then we know that my downhiller or every other downhiller hurry down the hard and icy slope with more than 100 kilometers per hour in making 3 times body weight forces in turns. And this is, we are almost at the end. This is how I progress. This is how I plan strength training in a gym. I divide my training sessions in primary, secondary, and third exercises. And these primary exercises are almost always the big exercises where you can produce some force or produce fast, heavy forces. Also, it means that if my athlete is coming tired on my training session, we will do this, which is 50% of importance of my training sessions, and then we can do a little bit of this, which is 30% of the whole training session, and this is 20% by importance. So if the athlete is tired, we go with primary exercises, and then he can go home to recuperate himself. I divide the exercises on the push-pull, hip and hip hinge and knee bend and core. Core exercises here are not meant just core exercises for the abdominals, trunk, but also some exercises that we need to be working on. Are there be shoulder, hip, whatever. I always take into consider when lifting lower body, the body, lifting the whole body. So I took away some percentage to accommodate with the upper body lifting. Here we see the progressions, intensity and the volume in total reps. This is the same, just progression from the last slide. So we add intensity, lower the reps, exercises here. I won't talk about exercises because every coach has his again his own vocabulary of exercises. And this is the last part of the strength phase, like lower maximal strength phase, going from 80 to 90% here. And we also add here some velocity with other exercises like introducing plyometrics, bounding, also jumps or light loaded jumps. So this concludes my short presentation how I'll plan and devise strength training for my athletes. Hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, contact me through our host Sasha, whom I'm thankful for inviting me to have this presentation. Take care and goodbye.